Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're taking a closer look at a really foundational story, the story of the Buddha.
Yeah, it's a narrative it's shaped the thinking of billions, hasn't it, for millennia?
Exactly. We're using excerpts from the story of the Buddha, kind of trying to boil it down to the key moments, the big insights.
Right. The goal is really to give you a pathway into understanding this figure, not about dogma, but, the human journey itself.
Yeah, why does this ancient story still matter so much? Who was this person, really? And we think there are some real aha moments in his life story.
Definitely transformative moment.
Okay, so let's dive in. Where does the story usually begin?
Well, what's really striking, and the source points this out, is where he started. Siddhartha Gautama, born a prince.
Right, in ancient Nepal, over 2,500 years ago?
Yeah, exactly. And living a life of, incredible privilege, totally sheltered inside palace walls.
Literally sheltered, wasn't it?
Yeah.
His father actively tried to keep suffering away from him.
Precisely. There were even these prophecies, at his birth, hinting he'd be some great leader, either worldly or spiritual. So his father doubled down on the comfort.
Trying to keep him attached to the worldly life, maybe? Just imagine the no concept of real hardship.
It's almost impossible to grasp, but of course that couldn't last forever.
No. And this is where things take a massive turn, right? The text highlights these moments called the foresights.
Mm-hmm. These weren't planned outings, just rare trips outside the palace walls, accidental encounters, really.
And what did you see?
He saw, for the first time, an old person, a sick person, and then a corpse.
Wow. So old age, sickness, death. Things completely hidden from him before.
Exactly. And for someone raised like he was, it was a profound shock, a psychological blow, really.
It must have just shattered his reality.
It did. It showed him that life, even his privileged life, was temporary. And that suffering, or dukkha, was universal. It wasn't just an idea, it hit him deep.
And that became the catalyst, didn't it, for everything that followed?
Absolutely. It sparked this intense need to understand suffering, really understand it and find a way out.
Which led to, an unbelievable decision, the Great Renunciation.
Yeah, unbelievable is the word. He decided to leave it all behind. His title, the wealth, his family, his wife and child, everything.
Just walked away from a kingdom, basically.
To search for liberation. It just shows how deeply those foresights affected him, how strong that desire for truth became.
It wasn't just running away from comfort then.
No, not really. It was more like running towards an answer. He saw that his sheltered life was, kind of an illusion, vulnerable to the very suffering he'd just witnessed.
So what did he do first? Where did he go?
His initial path, as the text described, was extreme asceticism. He joined groups of ascetics who practiced intense self-denial, starvation, holding breath, painful postures.
Thinking that by punishing the body, he could free the mind.
Pretty much. That was the thinking then. He spent years doing this, meditating intensely, pushing himself to the absolute limit.
But that didn't work either, did it?
No. The source material is clear on this. He realized that extreme self-torture didn't bring wisdom any more than his earlier life of extreme indulgence had. Neither extreme held the answer.
Okay, so if not indulgence and not denial, what then?
This is where he discovered what's called the middle way, a crucial insight.
The middle way. So moderation.
It's more than just moderation in, say, eating. It's a broader principle of balance, avoiding extremes in thought, in effort, in lifestyle, finding a sustainable path that cultivates clarity, not exhaustion or distraction.
Right, a path you can actually walk long-term to gain understanding.
Exactly. And it was by following this middle way and continuing with deep, focused meditation, famously under a tree later known as the Bodhi tree.
Ah, the Bodhi tree, yeah.
That he finally had his breakthrough, the moment of enlightenment.
The big aha moment.
The biggest one. The texts describe it as a night of profound awakening. He gained these incredible insights into how reality works, why suffering happens, and crucially, the path to end that suffering.
And that's when Siddhartha Gautama became the Buddha.
Yes. Buddha just means the awakened one. He woke up, you could say, to the true nature of things.
So he's achieved this ultimate understanding. What did he do next? Did he just stay under the tree?
Well, what's really significant is that he didn't. He could have just enjoyed his own liberation, but he chose to share it.
Okay.
His first sermon, often given at a place called the Deer Park, was where he started teaching. He laid out the core principles right away.
What were those core ideas?
He introduced the Four Noble Truths, basically. One, there is suffering in life. Two, suffering has a cause, which is attachment and craving. Three, suffering can cease. And four, there's a path to make it cease.
Okay, a diagnosis and a prescription almost.
Kind of, yeah.
Right.
And that path he laid out is the Eightfold Path.
The Eightfold Path.
Which is a practical guide. Things like right understanding, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. It covers ethics, mental discipline, wisdom.
The whole way of living designed to lead away from suffering.
Precisely. A practical toolkit.
And people listened.
They did. As he taught, a community started to form around him. This became known as the Sangha.
The Sangha, the community of followers.
Yeah, monks, nuns, and lay followers too, all dedicated to practicing this path he discovered. The source highlights the Sangha as being really important, a support system for the practice.
So the teaching spread through this community.
Exactly. It wasn't just a solitary path. The community was, and still is, a key part of it.
And the Buddha continued teaching for, what, decades?
For many years, yes. Traveling, teaching, guiding the Sangha, until eventually his physical life came to an end, an event known as the parinirvana.
Parinirvana. But the text emphasizes this wasn't really an end, right? Not in terms of his influence.
Not at all. His influence is, well, it's still incredibly strong today, over 2,500 years later. It's quite extraordinary.
It really is. What parts of his legacy do you think are most relevant now?
Well, his core teachings, things like compassion, the importance of mindfulness, being aware of the present moment, and his insights into the nature of reality, impermanence, how our minds work, these things still resonate deeply.
They offer a kind of timeless path, maybe, towards less suffering, more peace.
I think that's right. It's a framework for understanding ourselves and navigating life, aimed at cultivating inner peace, wisdom, and ultimately happiness.
So when you boil it all down, the story of the Buddha, from prince to awakened one, it's really a testament to human potential, isn't it? The potential for awakening that's maybe in everyone.
Absolutely. It shows that transformation is possible regardless of where you start. Which maybe leads to a question for you listening. Thinking about this journey, this move from ignorance to understanding, from suffering towards peace, what might awakening mean in the context of your own life?
That's a deep question.
It is. And maybe inspired by this ancient path, what small step could you take? Maybe towards a bit more awareness or understanding or inner calm. Something to think about.
Definitely something to reflect on. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the Buddha's story.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
If this sparked your interest, maybe exploring the Four Noble Truths in more detail or looking into mindfulness practices could be a good next step. We'll see you next time.